Well, it's part of well-being. It's also a medical condition. It's also a pathological condition because the reason why I say it's a pathological condition is that there has been many people, or in so many cases, whereby people may have been exposed to, I guess, unhealthy relationship, um, maybe lack of parental attention to children or to your kids or something like that. People who are in domestic violence, so that can all lead up to depression and anxiety, which can be mental health as well. For example, myself, I underwent a messy relationship 2 years ago, and as a result, I fell into depression. I was very anxious of I guess, my external look. I was not happy of who I am. When I looked myself in the mirror, I was unhappy as to who I saw and what I saw in myself. There were times that I doubted even my own self-worth. And I guess all this led up to depression and anxiety for me. But however, it didn't lead up to the point whereby I needed to seek for medical attention. However, I did have my own personal ways that I was able to deal with them. So I guess for me, in my opinion, is to do with your mental state. If you're mentally okay, I guess then you would be able to avoid such condition. But at the same time, it also has to do with environmental factor. For example, as an immigrant coming from Africa to Australia and residing here, it was only here that I heard mental health. It was never something that I've been exposed or, even sat down with my parents and communicated, such issue with them. For me, as an immigrant or as an African, mental health is like, it's something that, it's non-existent for our parents in their views. But it's there, but it's not something that is often discussed or spoken about or even, educated in universities or schools. So I guess that would be it for me.
And just to second that, it's like you're right in sense of it's something that you personally have to go through for you to know.
Yeah.
And it's like some factors in life and some situation actually do expose you to mental health and feeling like feeling really down and feeling that things are not going right for you. And there are some events that can really break you down where you're like, okay, like death and losing people in the family. But like you said, it's a westernized kind of concept where you come here and you're like, oh, there's depression, there's anxiety, there's all this stuff that you're like, oh, they do exist and there are names for this. But in an African home, you're just expected to go on with life. You lose someone and it's like, okay, get over it kind of thing, like just grieve your own way. But there's no title to the grief, there's no title to how deep it is affecting you mentally. And it's just like we come here and we are in schools and we are taught that there is mental health. We are taught that there are ways that you can seek help. And we are taught that mental health is a serious issue, and it is an issue that is very existent in the Western culture, and it is taken very seriously by the Western culture. But it comes back to the cultural aspect where you're like, okay, what is this about? Am I supposed to like go with what I know, where we are told this is an issue, or am I supposed to stick with where I come from, where I'm supposed to be strong about everything and pretend that there's no mental health? So in my opinion, mental health it does exist and it is serious, and just because someone is not coming up and telling you that I'm struggling or I'm depressed doesn't mean that they're not going through something. And because of where we come from, it is very hard for someone to admit that I have a mental, I'm struggling and stuff like that. So,
and just to add on to that, it's also a medical condition as well, because it has like a hierarchy that you have to reach to a certain point whereby you need that medical attention, you need counseling attention, you need to see psychologists or psychiatrists, because if you don't see those people and if you don't go through those phases of seeking for those professionals in order to manage it, then you may end up, killing yourself, committing violence. I mean, we've had cases whereby we've lost so many people because of that, and even till now, our so-called parents still don't believe that it's
That
something
exists,
that
yeah.
is so serious that it can even take someone's life. So yeah,
And there are cases where people have ended up in mental health,
Yeah,
mental
yeah,
institutions
that is
because
true.
of.
Yeah. And
So for me, I guess I see mental health as a state where you either have a healthy mind or a non-healthy mind. So I guess we're all humans. It is biological. We are bound to face obstacles in life that are going to put us under pressure, and also experience things that you cannot deal by yourself. So, and sometimes individuals get caught up in this bubble where you're sort of experiencing all these mixed emotions and feelings towards a certain situation, and not having someone to talk to about it. That sort of will trigger other emotions that can actually lead you to a very chronic stage of having depression or mental diseases. So in terms of how society views mental health these days, or how individuals may view mental health will differ from person to person. And I guess it's the way that you tackle mental health and the way you face that, whatever you're going through. So some people are more personal and they find it easier to sort of tackle their own emotions and problems individually, whereas other people want to do it publicly. And so there are different ways of tackling mental health, and it just depends on how you are as an individual.
So I think it can be biological, it can be medical, it can be it all goes back to the mental state. So I think it's a very broad thing, and it's hard. I find it hard to put it down to one.
I would say
thing,
for me it was personal.
Yeah.
Something that I went through. I wasn't. I
Well-being.
guess I didn't have the strength to be very open about it, or even be able to, sit my mother down, being that she's one of the people that I have close relationship with, and say, "Oh, mom, I'm going through this," because I didn't want her to even judge me before putting herself in my shoes. You know what I mean? So it was something that I had to deal with by myself. So I guess at the end of the day, I would say it's personal for me as well. So.
And also, let's not forget the substance abuse that lead to mental health as well.
Yeah,
So that's another factor that that leads to mental health. And that's when I think of mental health, that's one of the things that comes to my mind. I think of people that are abusing substances, end up being mentally ill, end up in mental institutions, and I think that's one of the biggest things that lead to mental health at this point, as well as the well-being and things around them. So.